Hey y'all.
Hi.
What a technically challenged day I've had. But here we are.
It happens.
Tanya, these
Yeah,
glasses,
after.
I'm obsessed.
Thank you. I am going to shout out Zelo, which I thought was one of the one of those fake vendors that be taking your money. And one of my friends like, no, you gotta go on there. And I tried it. It's not expensive. I was like, let me try it. Maybe I'll just chalk this money as a loss if it was a fake. And they came back with my prescriptions and they were super cute. And so I went online and bought a whole bunch of. So you guys might see me with different pairs of glasses just because I was a fan. I just recently had to stop myself.
Send me that link, please.
Okay.
I am inspired. Send
Thank you. Well, I want to be like, how was you guys this week? I know that's Tracy's question.
No, go ahead.
I want to know how your week of being off was, Tracy.
I've watched Bridgerton on a loop and it's been everything I could hope it would be. I've loved it. We did like a really small Bridgerton kind of spaces. I love talking about things with soap fans because our perspective is so unique and we have like a very shared language. Mm-hmm. So if I say, Anthony is a Regency era Spencer Cassadine, I don't have to like explain that to anybody. They know exactly what I mean. And so yeah, I was saying I'm going to try to figure out Patreon, which I was supposed to do on break, but what I did was watch Bridgerton. But like we would post up more videos there. So like you, Tanya, talking about Star Trek and things like that because you're so funny. Because
you talking about Obi-Wan though. Are we talking more about Star Wars because Obi-Wan's about to come out in May?
See? That's what I mean.
And Fantastic Beasts and okay, yeah.
Well, Ezra Miller's kind of clowning, but we'll see what happens with Fantastic Beasts.
No, J.K. Rowling too. Oh my God. I'm like, are you trying to tank this movie before it comes out? I'm like.
But you know who comes through every time J.K. acts a fool? Daniel Radcliffe. He comes through every time.
Yep. I loved Daniel's comments on Slapgate personally.
Oh yeah.
I
loved it.
Oh, I'm just so dramatically bored at hearing everyone's opinions and nobody needs to hear mine. And I loved it. I was like, this is the exact right take. And I'm gonna start saying I'm dramatically bored by other people's opinions all the time. So thank you for yet another contribution to society, Daniel.
I'm dramatically bored by people in our mentions, but we'll get to that. I mean, and since people brought up Slapgate, it's so funny because people like, I think I tweeted something from our account, like, I just need my fave celebrities to just not say anything. And people were all up in our mentions talking about freedom of speech and the First Amendment. And I'm just like, Ava Jerome said it best about the First Amendment, and I'll leave it there. I don't care. I'm not the government. I'm a podcast account. Like, who gives a shit? Like, I can't infringe upon your rights to speak. Please, go do civics. Go do a civics class, please. Please, right. I beg of you.
I have to tell you, that's one of my least favorite internet interactions is people accusing me of infringing upon their freedom of speech. We are not a government entity. We cannot do that. And that's an automatic block for me. I don't have time. I don't want to hear from you if you think that I am a bit, here's me using my free speech of Black.
You have the right to speak, but we don't have to listen to you. We're not going to throw you in jail. We're not going to fine you for saying things.
But we don't people in jail. Who do you think I am? Molly Lansing Davis?
Right. We don't own Twitter. We just decide what we want to see and hear from.
And I don't want to hear, I mean, listen, because you know who got packed up was Chad Duell. He put up that poll about Will Smith. And I was gonna be like, Chad, one thing about them comments, they're not on your side. It was, I had never seen such savagery. Like people from all corners of Twitter, people who like every fandom, it was like the Avengers. And Chad was Thanos, and people just were coming at him like it was rough. I hope he learned his lesson.
Yeah,
Lesson,
and Nancy Lee Grahn. So Tracy and I have a mutual friend, Chaney Turner, who goes in on the mayor of Oakland all the time. She be dropping these insults and gatherings and then bounces and walks away. It's just like, it's her pastime. It's her hobby to go after Libby Schaaf and their hobby. And so I feel the same way about Nancy Lee Grahn. Like, I usually don't have time to go after people or to get into Twitter battles, but for her, if something comes across my timeline and she's saying something about Black people, which is always wrong, it's always the wrong take, I'm going to make time to tell her about herself, because she's like one of these annoying, like white women liberals who think they have things right and feel like they have something important to say about something that's none of their business. And it's usually the wrong thing. And so I take the time to go after her. I could unfollow her. I could do that. But for me, sometimes, you know, even nice people sometimes need room to go off. And so that's me. I need room to go off every once in a while. Lose my Jesus for a minute. And for her, I reserve that for her, because she always does it. And she pretends like she's learned her lesson, like her being friends with Bernice King is enough to give her the credit and the ability to say some off the wall shit. And no, friend, no.
Are they friends though?
I don't know if they're friends. I mean, she tweeted at her like happy birthday, and Bernice was like, come and visit. And like, okay, that's Bernice.
I find Bernice to be very friendly on Twitter, very approachable, very uplifting of activist. And maybe she's a GH fan, you know?
Yeah, Nancy's not an activist. She's not a good one, at least. She can go off on you know, Republicans all day. She's still problematic as hell. And, you know, sometimes I like her character more than I like her. Like, I don't like Alexis that much, but Alexis is like here and Nancy's down here. So sometimes I just, you know, want to just gather her and then go about my business. And that's what I'm doing. I will go and get her and then walk away and focus on something else, because it's just, she's too much. So, you know, and it's hypocritical. I mean, her tweet about, oh, Will Smith isn't going to be able to vote on the Oscars. That's not a punishment, blah, blah, blah. You have no idea what Black people's participation in the Oscars means and whether or not it's a punishment or not. It may not be a punishment to you. You may think it's glorification, yet you're still watching it, so whatever. But you have no idea what our struggle is and what it means to participate in the Oscars or anything like that. So for you to comment on it as if you were some, you know, had some knowledge base is too much. So you need to just sit down.
Very nice that you still follow her, because I have her as muted.
Right. I don't exactly.
I trust that people will let me know.
Right.
I haven't followed Nancy in a really long time, but I always know the moment she has stepped out of line.
Right. Because sometimes it's just brought to me, right? Mm-hmm. Like Twitter's like, you should see what this person said. And I'm just like, and it just shows up on my timeline. And I'm like,
Twitter is hella petty that way. Cause like I'll unfollow somebody and then I'll still see their stuff. I'm like, I unfollow them because of this. And it's like, oh, but no, you should see more. Like,
right.
Why do y'all do
and
this?
Yeah. And it's not just some of the soap actors. There's been a lot of actors that have been saying some stuff and got gathered on Twitter, and it's been hella entertaining. So
I loved
During
it.
my down-
I love the gathering.
Mhm.
So that's for my week. Bridgerton and being on Twitter. It's been a wild ride.
Yep.
Hashtag Cantony.
Mhm. And some of your tweets have been super entertaining and informative. You got me to watch the movie with Nicholas.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm just like,
Oh my God. So Nicholas Chavez, you might as well talk about it up top.
we
Was
love you, Nicholas, but
in a movie called Crushed. And so Susie, friend of the show, who also like holds down GH Discord, Susie, we were like, let's just like do a watch party together. And I was like, let's use the hashtag CrushGH, because I was like, this is like really cute. It like really shows that folks are watching the movie, but also they were watching it because Nicholas brought us in. And I want to say that, hashtag CrushGH might be my crowning soap Twitter achievement. I will say that.
It's taken on a life of its own.
I will never look at oranges again the same way. That's all I got. Very different from Nicholas, very different from Spencer Cassadine. That's what we will say.
yes.
His character Jason was, I would say, the anti-Spencer. So it was different. I was also very clear going into the movie, I am not the target demographic for this movie. I am an old. When they said Face Off is a classic movie, I was like, yep, this movie is definitely not my demographic. And I will say, after such a harrowing week of Spencer being so awful, it did make me appreciate Spencer a little bit more. So
I texted, Tracy. I was like, I have to watch Spencer just to get Jason Curtis out of my brain. I'm just like, I'm gonna go and rewatch General Hospital to get Spencer out of my brain.
I also appreciate that I was like, oh my God, y'all, the orange thing, we're overdoing it. And then he was like, oh yeah, like send me these edits. And I was like, all right, well, I guess here we are. Like it's all right, cool. And also, I will say this, I feel like when people come from soaps, they feel like our people. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, Rome Flynn being on all the things that he's been on. Like, even though I never watched B&B, like I felt like kind of proud because he comes from like this genre. Like we are like a very tight-knit soap community in a lot of ways. And so like I'm really excited to see Nicholas like take on other roles. I think other rom-com-y stuff he'd be really cute in. There's no reason like he can't be like a Noah Centineo. You know what I mean? We'd love to see him in Sydney do like a little Christmas movie written by
Josh Swickert's
wife. Like, would love to see him play like a little drama role because he does that really well. Like it is obvious to me that GH is like a jumping off point for him, and a really great one, and I'm glad we have him. I hope that when his contract is up, if he doesn't re-up it, that he still stays around like recurring in some of the ways that like some of the Days actors do. Just because like that he was so anti-Spencer, I was like, oh, he has some range. All right. Like, because this is not what I know of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
It's like these Trina's aunties were like, oh, well, you did a movie. Good for you. I gotta go now. I imagine it's kind of like what parents or like older relatives feel of actors who watch them do something so overtly sexual, where you're like,
right.
Oh, good job, honey. Good job, honey. I gotta go.
Look, I definitely saw it. Let's not talk about it anymore.
You
And
did
Nicholas
that.
was like, no, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna hashtag it. Like, I was like, all right.
Well, I'm sure it was the thing that got the most buzz from the movie. So you did it. You did the movie.
We were certainly not the target demographic,
Yes.
but I was glad to like hold down this space with Susie and have like the chat and be able to again like connect with soap fans about stuff like that. And you know, as actors, we did the same thing for Josh Wickard's like Christmas movie. As our faves like branch out, we'll continue to do things like that. And you know, we're gonna continue to support Nicolas Chavez always. So
Of course.
Spencer, you know,
we'll talk about it.
Spencer aside, we'll continue to support Nicolas.
Y'all ready to get into the recap so we can talk about this?
Yes, I'm dying. Oh, absolutely.
All right. So we're gonna do this a little different. We're gonna really just focus on like Trina and Spencer after the recap, in the performer of the week, and then we'll do kind of all of our other takes and hot takes. So okay, let's see, where are my notes? Okay, so we pick up the week with Jordan talking to Trina at her office at the PCPD with Josh outside to support her. What Trina is told is a casual conversation takes a turn when Jordan tells her that there was a tip that came in that accused her of watching the video in public before it was posted. I'm just take a pause for how stupid that is. Okay. Just so dumb. Trina refused an attorney and hands over the burner phone thinking it's hers. Trina is arrested by Dante while Taggart, Portia, Curtis, and Josh watch. Carly and Ava meet to go over Avery's schedule. Sunny comes in to tell them that Trina has been accused and arrested of revenge porn against Chaos. Both of them know immediately it's Esme, and Ava heads to the PCPD to support Trina. Victor shows up to Laura to see Spencer and is called away, while Laura is called away by Jordan. Spencer tells Victor about Esme's possible pregnancy. Esme cries to Marcellus and gets him to rent her a room at Kelly's. They meet at Charlie's for breakfast the next day, and Esme is picked up by Sunny's men to question her about the sex tape. Victor shows up and tells Marcellus that Esme might be pregnant, and that they go to pick up Esme from Sunny's office. Also with Sunny, he meets with Brick, who agrees to fill in for Jason in some ways, but tells Sunny they need to find someone else. Brick is on the case about Esme. We get mentions of Jason from Sam and Carly in addition to this scene. Spencer goes to Trina and not only tells her that he thinks that she did it, but that Esme might be pregnant with his baby. I'm so embarrassed. Officer Rory is in the back. He kicks him out of the room, and our multi-ship Warina is born. Playing it for all it's worth, Esme manipulates Marcellus and Spencer, making them think she's scared of Sunny, and it ends with both Spencer and Esme moving back into Windermere without telling Ava. Trina pleads not guilty with her family, plus Ava, Josh, and Cam by her side. Molly, TJ, and Sam are all skeptical of Harmony moving in with Alexis. We see them, and through flashbacks, we see that Harmony killed Neil in August of 2020. Speaking of Neil, his brother is creeping around town and tries to shake down Alexis for some money, which was maybe like the fourth wildest thing that happened this week. A yoga session turns bad with Nina talking to Carly about Joss and following it up to talk to her about Wiley. That goes about as well as you think it would, but we did get a really great Maxi meme out of it, so I can't be too mad. At Phyllis's urging, Harmony talks to Michael and Willow about Nina visiting Wiley, which they reject. When Harmony reports back to Nina, she slams Willow and brings up a lot of their past, which Nina, if you're ready to talk about it, so am I. Nina pushes Scott to file her visitation petition with the courts, while she kind of overlooks that Scott is helping Trina, but that's another thing. Chase is organizing a softball league. BLQ asks him to sing for deception. He declines. And finally, stress and grief are getting to Sasha, and she calls her dealer to re-up her drugs. That was a very quick overview of the week. What did y'all think? What were your fave moments? That good, huh?
Do you want me to go, Tanya?
Go ahead.
The week was not boring. Things happened. I feel like, yeah, there was movement and I was engaged, but I was also confused, angry. It was very hard to watch Trina get arrested top of the week. Wasn't any less hard when I rewatched it last night. It was actually harder. And so I appreciate that so much of the week actually was her story and the story around the sex tape. And I appreciate how much more movement we're getting in their story overall and like how much of the week it really took up. Again, the details of the story don't work, and we'll talk more about that later. Was really hard to find a favorite moment for me. There were so many great performances, and I'm sure we'll talk about that with Tanya, that were beautiful, wonderful, moving, also hard to call my favorite moments because of what they were attached to. So I actually said the moment that delighted me was Ava and Schmaltz when he was like, do you even know about the First Amendment? And she said, yeah, it's right after, it's followed by the Second Amendment. And he was like, is that a threat? And she was like, yeah, I'm fucking Ava Jerome. And I love that moment. It was like a necessary like moment of humor in the middle of a very hard week. And also I'm so looking forward to seeing Ava next week that it was a nice little teaser for me. So I appreciate how much Maura can make the most out of the least, which we talk about all the time. But that was an especially great line of hers.
Yeah. You said it. My favorite moment, here's my agenda. I really love the Car Sam moments. I've always been a fan of Sam and Carly's friendship. I know that sometimes puts me on the outs with other Sam fans, which y'all know I love y'all. I think that their friendship is really earned. That, you know, they hated each other and it made sense that these characters hated each other. And then it made sense that they grew together. And so if you like search the Car Sam hashtag on Twitter, a bunch of us were like, you know, submitting things to it. One of the things I really love about their relationship is how often they say I love you to each other. That like when they leave, because people were like, oh, you know, this is really forced. Carly and Sam aren't friends. And I think some of the writing recently has felt forced, especially like in the wake of Jarly. I again will repeat from the rooftop that they should have, like, Jason and Carly should have sat Sam down and that would have been a better story. For her, them to be like, it's business, and then her to see that they fell in love. But alas. But I really loved the moments with them at yoga. I loved that we got a little point of view from Sam about being Scout's mom, and like connecting that to Jocelyn, and what Jocelyn's going through. And I hope, I have two hopes for the Car Sam friendship as it grows. So one, I hope that we have more Sam point of view, that it's not just all about supporting Carly. That's not interesting. And that has actually been one of the great things about their friendship, is that it has not been about all supporting Carly. And then I hope it's not just used as a way to like have drama with Carly and Drew down the road. But I did really enjoy like the moments that they connect as mothers and as friends. What about you, Tanya?
Ooh, I agree with all of what you guys said. For me, there was a lot of great performances this week. The story and the turn of Trina is super disappointing, but we'll move forward on that. We'll talk about that later. My favorite person, one of my favorite persons, was Ava being Team Trina all week, with Carly, with Chaos, with Trina, all of them. I mean, she was straight 100%, with Sunny. I mean, it's just like she went all to everybody and was like, no, we need to get Trina out of jail. She was on it. Now, I expected to see more of Taggart in that role, but it was good to see Ava doing that. I'm glad. And having Maura doing those scenes were amazing. I know like some people have some feelings around Sunny right now, and Avery Pohl. But the scenes that they did together were greatly acted. Loved Sunny being Sunny to Avery to Esme. Esme, white girl tears and all of that. She put it 100 on a 20 for that. I mean, but they were just greatly acted. I don't like what Esme's doing, but they were greatly acted by Avery Pohl. And so just shout out to Avery Pohl and her scenes with a veteran that, Maurice Bernard is, and hanging in there and being just as good and compelling. The yoga scenes were probably like some of my favorite, as an ensemble, it was great because Laura Wright going off, was great. Sam having, like, I saw your tweet, Tracy, about Sam having backup stands ready to go the whole time. That was great. Maxie being Maxie was great. I mean, she was like, abort, this is not the time. And then having, the meme, that was amazing. Cynthia Watros, can't stand Nina, but she was doing Nina to the hilt. So the performances was great. The scene was great as an ensemble. I like that. But of course, my fave is gonna have to be congratulations to Tabiana, because my favorite scene of all was Trina going off on Spencer, and both of them were acting really amazingly. Actually, I want to give a shout out to my runner-up, and that would be Nicholas Chavez eyelashes, because they were working overtime and they've been consistent. I just like, his eyes are so emotive and he uses those lashes to the hilt. And whether they're downcast, whether they're smoldering and being flirty, whether they're sad or whatever, those eyelashes in his eyes are so expressive and amazing. And I just have to give them a nod. But Nicholas Chavez is a whole package when it comes to the acting, but I always notice his eyes and those lashes 100%. And unfortunately they couldn't save him this week because he's just acting crazy. But yeah, shout out to my performances. Top performance, Tabiana. I will actually say Tabiana, more rest, and really Avery Pohl for going toe to toe with Sunny. But yeah,
I mean, I think Tabiana, just how lucky are we to have had like two phenomenal actresses as Trina? Just like being able to seamlessly, I had tweeted about like, what awkward stage for her, just not existent. She walked in, you would have no idea she just started. Her chemistry with everybody, I mean, her scenes with Brooke as Portia, just like, that's her mama. You know what I mean? Like, that is, it was so impressive. She's just fit right in. You would never know she's new. She has like gone toe to toe with everyone. Her hugs with everyone, I've just really appreciated the embraces that people have given her. She's been just great. No, I mean, I had high hopes for her because I knew I'd seen some of the things she did before, but I mean, all of my high expectations have been blown out of the water with her performances.
She's such a natural. Everything that you all have said, double click. And I appreciate that you can tell that she's watched Trina, like she's watched Sydney as Trina, and so it feels like, oh, this feels like a continuation, but she's not trying to be Sydney. Like
Mhm.
she has her own take, but it still feels very in line with the Trina's. And so it's just like so nice to be able to be like, we have two Trinas that we have loved and are supporting and rooting for. And I appreciate also seeing the support for each other online. And it's been very sweet. I will also say, oh my goodness.
I was like, is that a butterfly?
A bug landed on my camera. I would also put Brooke out there. I think Brooke really, I mean, I think she's also so much of what grounded Tabiana as Trina right from the beginning. And I have loved watching her kind of move from being like, I need to be strong right now in this moment while I'm talking to Trina, while I'm talking to Scott, while I'm in court. And then you see that kind of like, okay, and the strength is starting to crumble a little bit and I'm going to break down. And so all those moments where she is kind of like holding it together and then you see like the weight and like the realization, it's also helped for me to like really emotionally process like this, she's trying to hold that her daughter could go to prison. And it really, really got me the second time I watched Trina's arrest. Like the first time I was just in such shock and like I was having a hard time processing it. But the second time I watched, like watching Brooke really made it hit home for me. She's so good.
I was gonna say about Brooke, like a lot of us were like, yeah, we're waiting for that like Portia Spencer showdown. Like we wanted her to like go off on him the way we wanted to go off on him. But it was something about the look that she gave him. She almost broke Nicholas Chavez. Like you can tell in his face. Like I was like looking through the screen, like, oh, like it was something. Right. I was like, okay, you're channeling something right here, because everything that needed to be said, the stay away from my daughter, the like, fuck you, like all of that was like captured in just the stare down. And that's like, soap vet shit. You know what I'm saying? That's like Brooke being like, I've actually been around and I've done this, and you're about to watch me do this.
Yeah. I was shook. Like I was like, oh, it's happening. And I look forward to further interactions between the two of them, because that was clearly just the first taste, and I'm sure it's gonna get a lot more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the previews had Spencer wanting to be in a bomb shelter when Ava finds out. I think he needs to stay in that bomb shelter when Taggart and Portia come for him, because it's
he just needs to say,
yeah.
So let's actually move into talking about like Trina and Spencer and Sprina and what's like working, what's not working, like the story. So I wanted to kind of frame it up. I watched the Q&A. So they had the actors that play Jordan, Curtis, Trina, and Portia all on this Q&A on Friday. And so I tweeted along a little bit with it. And so one of the things I think that stuck out for me the most was that the actors that played Curtis and Portia basically were like, we had to intervene on Trina's arrest to make sure she wasn't handcuffed. And so it just like made me think about all of the things that are happening. I have a lot to say, but I wanted to like give it over to y'all. So I wanted to frame it up for that and just like see what y'all are feeling about the story. What are you feeling about the story so far? From Trina's point of view.
Yeah. When I watched the live, I was like, okay, that tracks, because they had mentioned something in one of the Zoom events about needing to intervene about something. And so we were all wondering what it was. So, because I had been like, what's the thing that they had to intervene on? Because the story is already off the rails in so many ways. And I appreciated how Tabiana reflected on that moment and how grateful she was for it, because it also helped her to feel more empowered to speak up in the future when something doesn't feel quite right. And so I appreciate that there is some collaboration happening on this storyline. And it's also like one of those things where it can't always be on the actors who hold the identities of the characters that are different from the people behind the scenes making decisions, and how political that is in a lot of ways. So that's one. I think it's really, there's so many aspects of this story that are really challenging. And a big part of what's been hard for me, and I know a lot of others, is that there's so many inconsistencies and pieces of oversight in the moments leading up to Trina's arrest, like the evidence, and the procedures around it, and how many ways there are to actually prove like reasonable doubt around Trina that they just keep ignoring. And so it's distracting, because it's like we're already triggered by Trina being arrested, and on top of that, there are so many reasons why it shouldn't have happened, and so many ways in which it's so clear that she's being set up. And on top of that, we have like, no, I'm not even gonna get into Spencer right now. But that's like another element of like, to not go too deeply into it, we already have Trina in such distress, and then you have like the one person that we were sure would believe her not. And so it's just another example of how this story has gotten way out of balance with the teens as they try to like give them this adult storyline. You're giving us a lot of strife and trauma and anxiety-filled story, and not a lot to help us relieve, have some hope for what's going to happen in the future.
I was gonna say, so there was something that really stuck with me. So somebody like posted up on one of our, maybe our social media, I don't remember if it was Twitter or Instagram, but it was like, y'all want representation, but you don't want this. Like, you can't have it both ways. And I was just like, oh no, you've come to the wrong person. I've actually not asked for representation without nuance since Barack Obama. Like, I'm really fucking clear. That's never what I've asked for. So like maybe somebody else asked for that, but it wasn't me. And like, it wasn't this podcast. So don't come here for that. And so like representation to me is not sticking like people with like diverse identities and experiences in like status quo storylines. That's not it. You know, like we want to see people be like full people and let that show up on screen. And so we talked about that with Terry, like when she went on her date and she was talking about being an Asian doctor, like that made the story richer. It was like, that is funnier. That is a better story to tell. And not having race be in this story is really distracting. And diversity should stretch the boundaries of storytelling, not limit them. So we have actually seen soaps be the genre and the medium that has like broken down barriers. And to like see this play out this way is actually like distressing, to be honest. No, I actually don't want Trina to be like any other soap heroine, because she is not. Bringing race into her story should make it better. Like, you know, Sandra, you said this so many times that white supremacy is like not only damaging, but it's boring. And so you're telling a story that's like boring and disconnected and disjointed because you're like working overtime to avoid talking about this thing that's like very, very present. It could provide nuance to make the story powerful. So that's like a piece of that for me. And then, you know, I was really upset about Molly. And part of it is, you know, I saw people be like, well, she was just doing her job. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's part of the problem that that's her job, right? Like, but I saw people calling her like a Karen, and I'm like, actually, Molly is not being a Karen. Because when I think of Karens, I think of somebody who is like purposefully creating harm and harmful situations for Black people with their like entitlement. And what we have from Molly is like actually worse. She co-opts language from communities of color and queer communities to like appear woke while like operating as a cog in the machine. So she's like, I'm not gonna get married. I'm gonna have a domestic partnership. That actually means something. Like queer folks couldn't get married because straight people were like, I can't express my boring ass love without oppressing other people. So therefore you can't get married. And so Molly actually being like, I'm gonna be in this type of relationship, girl, either get married or don't. Nobody needs you like co-opting other people's experiences because like you are different, right? Like you are not the norms of society when you actually represent all of the norms of society. And so she talked about being in the DA's office specifically, and this is why she's getting dragged with TJ. TJ was like, yo, you know what happened to my dad, right? Like, you know how this happens. You know how people get railroaded. I think they even let him talk about race a little bit in that. And she's like, no, I'm going to change from the inside. And I'm like, is this what changing from the inside looks like? Because the reality is Molly should know Trina. It's actually like, they might not be the best of friends, but we make assumptions about what happens off screen because we don't get to see a lot of like family relationships being built on screen. So the assumption is that on screen, you like are close, like Trina, or not Trina, but Joss is close to Christina, therefore you should like know some of Joss's friends. And you start asking questions. Curtis being like, oh, you're just doing your job was a way to let Molly off the hook. And actually, Curtis got too many white ladies he saved, so that doesn't mean anything to me. Curtis saving Molly wasn't enough. It's not just you doing your job. When you yourself have put yourself out as this person. It would be different if you were just like a DA who did your job, who like you didn't talk about these things, but this is the character that you have built for yourself and the reputation that you have built for yourself as somebody who's going to do these things. And then you turn around and you like basically tell a Black girl she should like plead guilty to something that she's telling you that she's not doing. And the victims of the crime are telling you that she didn't do. And people who in your life you trust are telling you that she didn't do. How is that this? I mean, we can get into, because this is my work, we can get into how broken the system is, but like, is this the system that Molly was trying to change?
She even said to Curtis, I'm really surprised by this because Trina seems like such a good person. So she knows enough about Trina to know that this is completely outside of her character.
And you sat there and you girl bossed it in court without like taking a pause. And so what I am concerned about is that this is going to be some kind of triumphant moment for Molly where she's going to come back and be like, look at me saving this person, in the same way she solved racism in the system before by taking down this one judge who did this one thing to one couple people of color. Like, I do not want this to be her like Elle Woods like on race moment, but I'm worried that it will be.
Probably. She had that look after she was talking to Curtis beforehand, where like he walked in and they had her reaction look of like conflict. Didn't stop her from trying to railroad Trina when she was inside the courtroom. And I hated that moment where Scott was like, Molly, and she was like, you can refer to me as ADA Lansing Davis. And I was just like, okay, girl boss moment. Okay. Like, yeah, Scott should refer to you respectfully, absolutely. But, you know, she's not being a Karen. She's being a Nancy.
Woo! So I'm glad you said it because I was thinking it. And I didn't want people to be like, damn, Tanya hates Nancy. Of like, because I would just keep going on. But yeah, I totally agree. For me, so one of the consequences of being Black in America in this day and age right now is us being super vigilant when it comes to police. I don't know about this in every other city, but you know, somewhat close to after George Floyd happened, you would see Black people watching the police in every interaction with other Black person. I was working downtown and I saw the police, just kind of, hemming up somebody. And, protocol or society would have us just walk away, right? And just let the police do whatever they do. But I stood there and I watched them. And I wanted to make sure that they were doing things according to protocol and that nothing was going to go down, right? Because that's what our community is like doing now. Like, we're watching the police. And so I came into this story with that exact same energy. I was analyzing Trina's arrest to make sure that nothing was, she was not being railroaded. She was not doing this. I was taking notes. I mean, one of the things is that a burden that we carry is that we now have to become experts in law enforcement because we need to make sure that our community is not being unfairly treated. And so I was watching it with that lens, and it's sad. It's a sad commentary that we have to do this, not only in real life, but on television, right? So I'm watching it, and it's good to hear the kind of the backstage scenarios of, the actors Curtis and Brooke or Kerr saying that they had to fight to ensure that Trina wasn't in handcuffs. And I can see some of the things that they did with this story to kind of be sensitive to things, where like Jordan pulling Trina aside and doing the interview, in her office, or, Jordan calling Curtis and saying, hey, this isn't exactly protocol, but you need to know this. That's Black people taking care of each other, right? Even though the GH, they wrote it as family, taking care of family. No, really, it's about Black people taking care of each other. And I wish they would acknowledge that, but whatever, bygones. Okay, so, but there's things that still happen that were wrong, right? So the fact that, Trina was arrested at all without the police doing a more thorough investigation, without the police tracing the phone, without, trying to figure out the location of when the video was sent and where Trina was at, looking for her alibi, all of that stuff, right? There's a lot that went wrong with that arrest, but it seems like GH is like, okay, we're going to make these concessions and then hopefully everything will be okay. They'll be okay with it. No, it was still very traumatizing. And, she's being railroaded for something that she didn't even do. But that would be that, them being kind of true to the race story would make this less boring, as what you said, as far as white supremacy being boring. Actually acknowledging how race plays a factor in this story would make it more compelling and make it more watchable and make it easier for Black audiences to watch, because you're actually really being sensitive to what we go through in society and even in soaps, by acknowledging how all of these factors come into play. Avery Pohl being typical white woman with white woman tears, acting that way, doesn't mean anything if you don't acknowledge that that's what she's doing. Avery Pohl might know, oh, this is peak white woman. This is so bad. This is so racist. And I'm going to play it like that. But if GH doesn't acknowledge it, then it means nothing. Yeah.
I think, you're so right, Tanya. I mean, you're never wrong, but you're so right with, but part of it is also this like tightrope of like us taking care of each other and like how fucked up things were to Trina. Because people were like, oh, why didn't she call the lawyer right away? Well, Jordan picked her up from school and was like, I need to have an informal conversation with you in my office. And so in that regard, I know you. I've known you for a long time. We've been in relationship. You've helped me before. Cyrus held me hostage and you were outside and I hugged you. You know what I mean? Like, we have been in relationship, we know each other. So why would I think that if something was wrong, you wouldn't have told me? You know, like, so it's like one of those things of taking care of each other, but like you can't, that is, I think, was like really frustrating about the story. Why would Trina think she needed a lawyer? She didn't even know there was a tip when she came with you. So like, if you would have actually sent Dante to go arrest her or whoever else, she would have known, oh, this is serious. But Jordan's presence actually made her think, oh, this is good. And I think that we're going to end up, I was like reading a little bit of Soap Opera Digest. I think we're going to end up getting into a little bit of that. Like there's going to be, and in the Q&A section, Brooke talked about her and Jordan having scenes in the future. So I think that we're going to see some of that like come into play around like, why did you do this to my daughter? You didn't make this feel as serious as it was. And I your point about all of the ways that this went wrong, it's so glaring. So people are already upset that Trina was arrested. The least they could have done is the due diligence on the back end to make it make sense. It really makes no sense. At no time do we ever see Esme have any gloves. Like, all you got to do is look for fingerprints.
Right.
And so we have done all of this like mental gymnastics to try to figure out how this was going to work. Like, okay, so they're going to ping the phone and then they're going to see that Trina was in the graveyard with Spencer when this happened. And then it's going, like, we were trying to make it make sense in a way the GH was like, oh, what they doing? Because I'm not trying to make it make sense.
Right.
Yeah, it was like,
that has been extremely frustrating.
Yeah, it was like I said last time, I was like, this is a really stupid crime for Esme, because we can see all the different ways where she should not have been able to get away with it. And yet the lack of due diligence by the police officer show why she was able to get away with it. You know, not even just, you know, the fingerprints and, you know, go back to figure out where the phone came from, go to the shop and be like, who came in and bought this phone? Or, you know, or just like all of these different things that the police could have done, that Jordan thinking, okay, if I pull her to the side and have this interview with her in my office, then that can make me feel better about arresting this young Black girl, instead of actually beforehand doing her due diligence and making her police force do a better investigation. So that way, if they do have to arrest Trina, then it's for a good reason. That's what she should have done.
And in 2022, I just cannot take seriously people talking about how Esme and Spencer were at the cabin when the video was taken. We live in a surveillance state. What the hell are you talking about? What do you like? That's just the dumbest. I cannot take that seriously.
And they've acknowledged that. They've acknowledged it. Several different characters have acknowledged it. Jordan has acknowledged it. The other piece around the investigation is like, I don't know what the threshold is for like when you have enough evidence to arrest someone or not. Like, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but they haven't, like, she said, oh, we're talking to everyone who is there. We're going to talk to Spencer and Esme as well. But they haven't.
They haven't.
They have not been called down to the station.
They did
in fact, Spencer was there and he was sent away when he should have been held for questioning. So we can say like, look, they're trying to go by the book, but they're not. And if anything, I think it is actually kind of realistic in that, like, the police actually don't care. Like, generally speaking, like, police don't care about solving cases. They care about, arresting people and handing them over the DA to get charged. So this actually is very realistic. But what's troubling is that everyone keeps on trying to say, oh, so-and-so is just doing their job, and like taking race out of the scenario because the commissioner is Black. Because yes, exactly. And so pick a lane. Are the cops like competent but their hands are tied, or are they doing their usual bullshit? And like, we actually do need to talk about race. and to have like Scotty have to be the person to explain to Trina like why people like why do DAs offer the plea deals that they offer and what that process looks like that could have been a great moment for like Curtis to interject and talk about like, well, who gets what kind of deals. And another thing, I'm watching you too, Robert.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about who Molly's boss is, Robert Scorpio. Just because I haven't seen your face on screen doesn't mean I'm not watching you.
Just because we're both OG Heinrich haters, Robert Scorpio, doesn't mean I'm not watching you. Because I said before, anyone who rises up against Trina has a problem with me. Therefore, Molly has a problem with me, Robert Scorpio has a problem with me, and Spencer Cassadine has a problem with me.
Yeah.
My child. I'm so embarrassed.
Yeah, the reason why that's important is because DAs can choose what to prosecute and what to put their energy behind. And if they don't have enough evidence, they'll often not take it to court. And there's clearly not enough evidence in this case. And yet,
and when you do something like this to such a beloved character, you have to do something. I mean, like we have all of these other people who get away with it all the time. So it's like, I know we're not watching Law and Order, but I don't have a law degree and I know these things. So therefore this should like show up within the world of soaps. It's very lazy. It's just lazy writing when it didn't have to be.
Yeah, and with the piece around Spencer, since you brought it up, you know, if we're talking about like classic soap heroines and love triangles where like you have, you know, one of the main characters doubting the other in the love triangle. One of the things that came up for me around this was like the Leo, Greenlee, Laura triangle from All My Children, and how like Laura was this character who started off as like nice, like a nice girl that you're supposed to root for, and she eventually kind of became this unhinged villain who did a great job at using her white girl tears to make Greenlee look as bad as possible all the time. And what actually worked about that, like, because Leo was just like, fuck you, Greenlee, you're crazy. Like, I gotta be with my sick wife, whatever. And the reason we were able to come back from that in a lot of ways was because also like Greenlee was crazy. Greenlee had like pushed Laura off a boat before and like basically left her to die. Like Greenlee was capable of doing some of the things that she was getting set up for. And that was part of like the drama of the story is like, damn, Greenlee, if you hadn't been so crazy, maybe people like wouldn't think the worst of you. But that's not who we're not dealing with a Greenlee Smythe. We're dealing with Trina Robinson. And so having Spencer go to this extreme when it's like so far outside of his character, like from the beginning, when as soon as we started to put together that Trina was going to be framed, we were like, well, Spencer's like, there's no way in hell he's going to believe that. And I understand what they're trying to do with the pregnancy storyline. It's like, let's give him something so disorienting and whatever that would take him to the extreme of doubting Trina. And I'll give this, men say some crazy shit, say and do some crazy shit when they think they've gotten someone pregnant. That is accurate. However, it's not, it's just adding an extra layer of like stress and trauma to an already stressful and traumatic storyline. There's so many ways they could have approached an obstacle to keeping Spencer and Trina apart that didn't involve him like basically spitting in her face. She already like, they already were broken up. She already wasn't fucking with him. So why did he need to go to the station to like further that divide? Because I know that there's like a lot of folks who are trying, you know, we have done some Spencer apologizing on this podcast, but there are a lot of folks out here who are still holding on to this idea that he has a plan. And I can tell you after this week, I've never been clearer that this boy doesn't even know what a plan is. We actually know Spencer's not a planner. Like, we realize that most of what happened with the stalking was not his plan. Anything that was his plan was probably the worst parts of it, the dumbest parts of it, at least, not the most disturbing parts. But there are so many, if he has a plan, it's incoherent, just like he is, like the writing is for him scene by scene. Performance, never the issue with Spencer, but the writing is so disjointed, and there's only so much you can excuse it for him being, disturbed, confused, conflicted about the pregnancy piece. Because I'm like, I really don't understand what his point of view is here. Nor do I really care at this point.
I don't care. As the head Spencer apologist, who has said multiple times, I'm a Spencer apologist, except when it comes to Trina, and that Spencer's never done anything wrong except to Trina. I stick with that. I think, I don't know what they're trying to do. I think they are over reliant on Nicholas Chavez's like charisma. And Sandra, you talked about this, but it's like everything they have given Sprina fans to hold on to has been taken away through this story. So like everybody's like, oh, look at the party that he planned for her. We found out Esme planned that party. What? Look at the book that he gave her. Okay, Trina gave that book back. Look at, he went to the art gallery. He put it together about Esme. He was no longer fucking with her before he went to jail, and he went to the art gallery to kiss Trina. And then we find out that was right after he slept with Esme. So it's like, I'm not really clear as to what they're doing with Sprina, but they haven't given us enough grounding to hold on to like be putting them through this. I still stick by that they should have just actually kissed at the gallery. Instead of the near kiss when Sydney was still there. But there's just not enough good Sprina stuff to hold on to like be fair to people who are, us who have been fans of this couple. And so now they're adding in what we're calling Marina, this new Officer Rory. I hate that he's a cop, but here we are. To like this dynamic. And I was like seeing something where people were like, it was like some liaison fans who were like, oh, we've been here before, we've seen this happen. Okay. I'm really trying to retract my J-Sam clause because I don't ship them anymore. But I just need to be really clear. What is happening to Sprina right now is not the same thing that happened with Liaison. Sprina is the couple. Warina, that we've coined Warina with Rory and Trina, are the obstacle. J-Sam was the couple. Liaison was the obstacle. And it's not that obstacle couples aren't good couples sometimes. I loved Samtrick, and Samtrick was an obstacle to both J-Sam 2.0 / Dream and to Scrubs. It wasn't that it wasn't good, it just was never the writer's like end game. So what happened to Liaison is not what's going on with Sprina. I just need to be really clear about that.
I also need to be clear that Liz is not the same as Trina.
Say it again.
I'm tired of seeing that take for so many reasons. They're not the same.
I kind of feel like I wish I had let you talk, or wish I had said something first and then let you go, Tracy, because what I'm going to say is like super depressing to Sprina. I'm going to say that, and I wanted to end this on a happy Sprina note.
No, we'll keep going.
But I am super disappointed in how Spencer is acting now in terms of Sprina. Like, I just was looking back on it, and it almost made me come to tears because I'm thinking about it on a, kind of broader sense. What Spencer did to Trina is really messed up and abusive, especially when you think about it on a racial lens, right? Literally, Spencer groomed Trina to trust him and to like him. I mean, he was flirting with her. I mean, he was talking with her. He, says that he believes her, like he knows Trina and all this good stuff. But when it comes down to it, he basically used her. Every time he needed her to get away with something, he had her keep secrets. He had her, do all this stuff to protect himself. But knowing that Esme has done bad things, still chose Esme over Trina. And it hurts me because he's basically this white man using a Black woman who's always automatically going to not be believed to support this white woman who has been proven to do evil things. And still he chose her over the idea that she might be pregnant, which we don't even know because she's also proven to be a liar. So in order for Sprina to work for me, he's going to have to do some real, backtracking, apologizing, begging, changing of his own character, growing the fuck up before he can even come at Trina talking about, I like you. I know I put together this meme that was all romantic and all that good stuff, but no, I don't feel that way today. Mm-hmm. I feel really, I'm taking it personal because I can see how there's a lot of young Black women who could fall for predators like Spencer. I'm calling him a predator right now, but they will fall for that shit. And he can just walk away to his fancy little castle and do whatever. He spent a month in baby prison, and now he gets to go back to his life. She is now stuck with a federal offense. If she's proven guilty, that's going to affect her for the rest of her life.
I think that there's also something there. It was, to your point, it was like when Spencer, when he got out, he was like, what am I going to do now? This is on my record. I'm like, my dude, you're a prince. Like, you're a white dude prince. Like, please stop this. Where Trina, like, even if she's exonerated, there will always be doubt on her character. Well, I mean, it's a soap, so whatever. But in general, like, when that happens to like a young Black girl, it's always going to be doubt that like she did it or that she could have done it. There are always going to be people who look at her like, oh, you went through this thing, because you are, even when you are proven innocent, you are punished for even having contact with the system. Mm-hmm. And so that, I also think a lot about like when Jordan talks about like just doing her job and doing things by the book. I'm like, how by the book was you letting Cameron go home the same night he put a gun on you?
Right.
And that was like a time where they allowed the Trina character to talk about race. And so there are like small moments where they could interject that. So when Cameron was like, oh yeah, we're gonna go to court to like support Trina, it was like an easy part for him to be when Josh's like, I know she's scared, whatever, that Cam could have been like, I know, because I remember back, when I had my legal problems, we had this conversation. It didn't have to be like a big production between them. I don't need them to do like a PowerPoint on like, white fragility, which I can show up for them to do that. But like, I don't need them to do that. But like, you can reference conversations that you've already had. It's actually not that difficult. And so I think, to your point, Tanya, I think a lot of people are feeling like frustrated around Sprina. And like I said, I think that it feels like the writers don't necessarily have a plan, or they at least haven't let the actors in on the plan. And they actually overestimate how popular the couple is and how charismatic Spencer is and how that carries him. It has been really difficult. Like I said, it's been really difficult to like watch how that's gone that's gone down. Yeah,
like he would have to be the one to come in and save the day. Like he would find the evidence to prove Trina is innocent and Esme is guilty, and he would turn that bitch in. That was the only way that I could see him redeemed. Like he could remember that Trina has an alibi with him because he escaped prison just to visit his mom, and Trina was there. He could stand up and say, you know what? I know Trina didn't do this because I saw her in the cemetery at the time that the video was dropped. He could, or I mean, if he doesn't want to, get himself in trouble, just go out of his way to prove Esme innocent.
I mean, guilty.
Or guilty, yeah. I'm so caught up in my anger right now. I don't even know what I'm talking about, but yes.
I just didn't want to leaving yourself on the record having say that, because I knew that's not what you meant. I was like,
great.
Yeah. I mean, I think Spencer's gonna have to suffer. I mean, he's gonna have to suffer a lot, which is well on its way. It looks like he will be suffering, and he is currently, but I'm gonna need more. That's part of my equation for what I need personally for this personal attack against me. But no, like I think it is interesting. I mean, it's not interesting. It's very clear what they're doing. Like they're introducing this Rory character to be like, in part, we don't know actually what all his connections are to the canvas, but we're seeing him introduced as the spoiler to Sprina at the same time that Spencer is extremely unrootable. I don't think that's a mistake, but I do think that it's overkill. We already were kind of like, it's actually like there's plenty of things to that working against Spencer for us to be able to accept at this point. Another person being added into the mix as a barrier. Because at this point, I'm just like, well, if I know y'all are not planning on doing Sprina anytime soon, so bring on the hot cop. Let's do this. Why not? And so if they had not done that, it would have, like, the whole week would have been too much for me. I did need that like one thing to hold on to. And as a Libra, my preferred form of revenge is rebound. And rebound and then letting someone else suffer for the choices that they've made. So I will say that part of the storyline is working for me. But that's about it.
I'm just embarrassed. Like, Spencer, people know I've apologized for you. How are you letting Cam outdo you week after week? How much do I have to bear? I've called Cam sweet simple for how long for him to show up and like dress you down and outdo you every week? I've had enough. This is embarrassing. Right. They are calling you Skipper. Or I'm sorry, Skippy.
Skippy. Yeah,
because your mom was Skipper. They're calling you Courtney Matthews' son. This is rough, sir. But the one thing I do hold on to is nobody is more disappointed in Spencer than Nicholas Chavez.
Probably.
He gets those scripts like, you want me to do what? Like, it's just, I think about all that.
He's spending his time promoting Jason Curtis versus Spencer.
Yes. The timing could not have worked out any better for him. He's like, yes, just watch these videos of me eating this orange. Don't think about Spencer.
Right. Eating this orange over fucking Meg Thee Stallion beat. Like, just enjoy it. Like, this is what he's on. And I feel like, poor thing, because he's like number one Sprina shipper, and he's seeing like Sprina shippers be like, Rowena, fuck you. He's probably like, why have they done this to me? And I think about like the fan Zoom he did with Marcus, and how he was like, Sprina can be together. They can just have obstacles. Like he is like going through it. He remembered every line of the last scene he had with Sydney. He was like quoting it. He was like, "This was really good dialogue." Because basically they've been giving him trash ever since.
Yeah, it really does give a whole new light to a lot of his interviews that he's given recently. You know, that piece around like, you know, if it were up to me, Sabrina would be together and we have plenty of drama, but we can be together. And I was like, oh, honey. Woo, welcome to soaps. I know you probably thought Sabrina was going to be together by Thanksgiving, but that's not how it works here, unfortunately. But damn, I'm so sorry for your loss. It is also my loss. And he's normally so like effusive about Sprina, and he's mostly what his comments have been like, I love Sprina. Spencer loves Trina more than anything. And I love Sprina. Like that's all he's been saying. So, you know, the suffering is happening. The suffering is happening.
But for both character and actor. Yeah. I also, part of the way I've been able to try to calm myself down was thinking about the relationship between like Xander and Emily and Xander and Nicholas, and how long it took for them to get together and like all that couple had to like endure and still come out, well, until they killed Emily, still come out like really well and like being like a couple that we haven't seen on screen together in forever, that like still endures as being beloved. And so I'm just like remembering that. And I'm also adjusting my expectations around pacing because now we have a full-time Trina. And so things that would have taken, 2-3 months, 4 months, 5 months to like run through, I think will speed along. So we will see, we're going to get the gallery scenes. What I'm hoping with the gallery is that Spencer's there looking sad and miserable and dumb. And then Trina gets picked up by Rory and they go on a date. Like, I think that we're going to see more of that. And so having, Tabiana's on contract, having a full-time Trina, I think is going to change the pacing of Sprina as well.
I agree. I hope Spencer, every time I'm like, okay, he's hit rock bottom, he's like, hold my beer. I have more digging to do. So like, I would like for this, for this to actually be the rock bottom and for him to start digging himself out of this. It's not, because it's going to be a long road as it is. I don't need him to do anything else stupid, but I feel like he's going to, because he's not very smart. He's very naive. He's a very naive character.
I was gonna say that because I think that some of the things, and it doesn't excuse them, but some of the things that Reed is like manipulative are really like stupidity. Again, it doesn't excuse it, but I don't, to your point about Spencer doesn't really have a plan, I don't think a lot of this stuff is like premeditated. He came in, he's like, I'm Victor. Like, oh no, I can't take a picture with you. You know what I mean? Like, just none of that. He's not smart sometimes. He's like super stuck up and like, I read Shakespeare, but when it comes to them critical thinking skills, our boy is lacking.
Yes, like he is worldly in like the white entitled sense of like, I've been to a lot of places and I've read a lot of fancy books and I went to Cruel Intentions boarding school and we did whatever it is that like these rich sociopaths do. That's not the same as being emotionally intelligent. Or even being actually intelligent. It's just actually access to a lot of privilege and like a way of living life that's actually completely disconnected from reality. So
yeah, I think that's what happens in real life, right? So it's true to story. So even though I'm feeling like it's super predatory and manipulative, obviously he didn't think about it in that way. And that's generally what happens when we have people dealing with entitlement. They don't think about how their actions affect other people, and sometimes they don't care. I'm hoping that in order to redeem Spencer, in my mind, that he actually realizes what he's done and how it's affected Trina, and that he actually does everything he can to change that, even if it means sacrificing himself. But I doubt he'll do that, because white people don't do stuff like that.
I think the other thing, Tabiana is also a very intentional actress in the ways that like Avery and Nicholas Chavez are. And so like the things that she chooses to emphasize, I'm like tracking. So when she was talking to Spencer, she was like, you think I would do this to my best friend? And I think that, you know, this like signifies that Spencer is going to continue to be more isolated from the people he's friends with. And it actually makes me more frustrated at the adults in his life. So like Sonny and Carly, I'm looking at you. When Sonny was like talking to Victor, like, oh, well, Spencer's my family too. Like, well, you couldn't tell that. He made a mistake. Avery liked the beer. He made a mistake. I fixed that. I told you
like that. You stuck for that.
I'm an apologist unless it comes to Trina. Avery liked that beer. So Sonny like cast him to the side for doing that. Like, we haven't seen y'all together. We haven't seen you in relationship with him. I don't know what's happening off screen. And as I'll say over and over, I can only react to what I'm actually seeing on screen. And so, you know, Sonny, that Victor's a mess because you old man fought him in a bar. And you know he's having this like huge influence on Spencer. Same thing with Merciless. Carly, you kicked him out. So I'm supposed to hear you grieve about Courtney, but not talk about the fact that you're not taking care of her son. So I'm like very frustrated with the adults in his life, aside from Laura. And I'm really, you know, I think part of the other punishment is that he's going to continue to be further isolated.
I just don't want any more Merciless scenes, but there's been so many.
Especially with that one guy who Maurice Bernard's son coming onto the scene.
Oh,
they're
only coming so that Ryan can kill him. That's what I'm like.
Him and Schmaltz, the reporter, they gotta go.
They gotta go. I want them gone.
No. Yeah, the piece around how they're acting as if Esme is like, you know, 9 months pregnant and like she's getting ready to give birth to this baby, but she has not even peed on that stick, let alone taking a blood test, which is what I really need. Several blood tests done at many different labs. And I get why they're doing it, because they can't just like reveal. They're trying to hold us in suspense, and like this is part of like Spencer's distraction to keep him away from Trina. But it's again, you're choosing the wrong distractions if you have to like have people go to these lengths. Even Spencer knew better than Nicholas that Ava was not going to be okay with this. Like, Spencer was just like laying it out for Nicholas. Here are all the reasons why Ava's gonna lose her shit when she gets home, so maybe you should call her. And Marcellus is still just like, it'll be fine. Here, Esme, here's this copy of what to expect while you're expecting. Why don't you put your feet up instead of peeing on this pregnancy test?
Because you know who wouldn't have let that shit slide? Where is Queen Helena? Helena is rolling over in her cryogenic chamber right now. She cannot believe these men are doing this. This is absurd. Girl, get to GH, make sure Brad's not in the lab, and you take you a blood test. Okay, we're not doing this. It is too easy to find out if somebody is pregnant for y'all to be acting like this.
Truly the easiest.
The only way Helena would have a pregnant baby mama in her house is if she was held prisoner and waiting for the baby to come out, and then she would kill the mother.
In a panic room like Molly's dad did?
Right, yeah.
I got nothing but smoke for Molly.
Yeah. I did appreciate Victor naming the obvious. I was like, I'm just waiting for someone in this family to be like, we've been hiding babies for centuries, okay? It's gonna be fine. Because that's the other piece about Spencer freaking out about this baby. Like, I get it. Like, tied to Esme forever. Awful. Just like you spending 30 days in prison and like having a record is not a big deal because you're a prince. So is like an errant baby. Okay. It's good. Like, you come from a family of supervillains who are known for taking care of this specific issue. Right? Like unwanted babies. So there is of course the conversation about bodily autonomy, blah blah blah, whatever, but
not from you, Sam.
From me, the reproductive justice person. Yes. And sure, we can have that conversation when and if we ever know that she's pregnant, but that is actually how the Cassadines operate. And so I appreciated that scene because I was just like, it would be unthinkable for Victor to come in and be like, well, what does Esme want? That's not how the Cassadines operate. And it is, and I think one of the reasons why they're also dragging this out is this is part of Esme's manipulation of Nicholas as like someone who was abandoned, which she keeps bringing up. She also brought up that she was like, Ava wouldn't understand because she's never been abandoned. Who has been more abandoned than Ava Jerome? Come on. She was literally abandoned as a child and has been abandoned by everyone her entire life, but whatever, Esme. And Marcus had said some stuff on that Zoom. He kept on bringing up, and content warning, I'm going to talk about sexual assault. He kept bringing up, and I quote, Nicholas being a rape baby. And now I understand why he keeps bringing that up, because it's obviously part of like the manipulation. But I'm like, is this what you understand about your character, sir? Is this your big takeaway? Is this your big insight into your character?
Well, at least he's closing his mouth more now.
Oh, well, I wonder if he's talked to Jeannie Francis about this, because I'm sure she has some things to say too. But yeah, the way that they're doing the Cassadines right now feels very strange. I mean, like, I like Marcellus looking stupid because it's like within the actor's range, but like seeing Spencer be as stupid as his daddy over and over again is actually not entertaining to me. Marcellus is fitting that role. We don't need additional stupid Cassadines. We don't. Nobody ordered this.
So we have Trina and Sprina and Spencer a lot. Let's move to any other hot takes you have. I mean, y'all know who else I'm gonna drag, but what other hot takes do y'all have?
Well, Stephen A. Smith coming through as new Jason. I appreciated his continuity of character when he was like, oh, well, whoever you threw over fine ass Carly for, like, must be one hell of a woman. Because if we know something about Brick, it's that he's gonna thirst over Carly. I appreciate it. And if we're gonna be seeing more of Stephen A. Smith, I actually really need scenes with Brick and Spencer as the two like most memeable people on the show. Because like, I mean, Stephen A. Smith is like the king of the reaction videos. So I could see them, like training, teaching Nicholas the ways of being a meme. I mean, Nicholas is already really good at that, but I would like to see more of that. Harmony. What's happening? I'm so confused about this storyline. I will say she looked amazing. I loved her murder outfit, even though it was not weather appropriate.
Why did she roll through looking like Carmen Sandiego?
Yes, like who wears a trench coat to go murder someone in August in upstate New York? I don't understand. But she looked great.
And then my question was, why did she need a flashlight in her room? And why did not nobody wake up? Because if someone was pointing a flashlight at me, even when I'm asleep, that would just jar me. That would be like my body sense saying, hey, something's going on. You need to wake up. And nobody woke up. And she did not need that flashlight. It wasn't that dark.
Well, it turns out Alexis didn't, kill Neil with her WAP, but she may have sedated him. So that's my explanation. I also I didn't understand what was going on with that last shot of Harmony where Alexis runs in and she, does her thing. And then we see the light on the murder light, I guess that's what I'm calling it, on Harmony. I'm like, are we supposed to think that she's going to poison Alexis when she makes that comforting meal? What's happening here? And you can't poison a Cassadine. Cassadines poison other people, not the other way around. Although I guess maybe Alexis or Helena was poisoned. Anyway, but I also thought she looked great in the light, So Inga, complexion on point, no idea what's going on with your character. I still don't care that you killed Neil, but I know that that's important to other people, so I'll let them have their feelings. I'm like, what is happening with this brother? It's just another example of GH picking up a story that they dropped 2 years ago that nobody cares about anymore. I would have cared about finding out more about Neil's death if they had even addressed it last year. But bringing it up now of all times, I'm just like, let's move on. I had accepted that you dropped that storyline. Why are we coming back to it? And the same with Willow and Nina. I'm like a original Willow birther. I was like, this is Nina's child. And it was interesting because there was still all that tension with her and Michelle Stafford's character, even when they were transitioning over to that Nina. A lot of action had just happened. But now it's we've had all this stuff. Most people have put that theory to rest. And now you want to bring it up now when they're in a grandparent visitation lawsuit, which I can't tell you how little I care about grandparent visitation rights. You're doing a whole ass storyline, umbrella storyline, multi-generational storyline about this. The weakest of all custody storylines.
For Wiley? Who gives a shit? And it's it is so contrived because now all of a sudden Nina is seeing Willow, weeping Willow, whatever. It's unhinged. Nina is wild right now. And anything they're trying to do between Nina and Willow, Alexis and Sam did it better. Period. It's not interesting. Nobody cares. These are two characters that nobody cares about with drama that nobody cares about. Who cares if they're related? Nina is so useless as a character right now. I can't even talk about it. It's awful. Am I supposed to be rooting for her? I mean, I can never, but are people supposed to be rooting for Nina? Sorry, go ahead.
Because they have, Phyllis doing the same thing. And that was annoying.
The fact that Phyllis, I think I had something about this, the fact that Phyllis said something about her, oh, she's my friend and she's been here for me. Phyllis, your bar was burnt down because of her lies. So how dare she not be here for you?
Died. You almost died because of her lies.
Literally almost died because she was trying to keep a secret about Sunny. And y'all keep talking about Nixon Falls, which has been the worst storyline since I started watching GH again. So bad, in fact, and Nina was so ridiculous, in fact, that what made the Nixon Falls storyline better was Peter August showing up. if Peter August showing up to your storyline makes it better, kill it with fire.
Yeah, it's true.
Which they did, or at least I thought they did.
Yeah. All I can do, like you have been saying, Tracy, all I can do is react to what's happening on screen. And I just can't imagine that we're supposed to like Nina. I refuse to believe it. It's, like this is the storyline I, of course, care the least about. And I normally am just like, say a couple things and then, move on. But the level of insanity and just unhingedness that was happening with Nina this week, I really actually found her behavior in yoga class to be quite triggering, because listen, if I don't fuck with someone and they don't fuck with me, if something bad happens in their life, I'm going to send, and I feel like moved with sympathy for whatever reason, I'm going to send some good feelings their way, but I'm not going to talk to them. And so because I know that actually that's about me and my whatever, my guilt, whatever motivation I have to talk about with them, and not actually about what they're going through. And so when Nina brought up Joss to Carly, I was like, excuse me? And then the fact that Carly looked at her like she was the gum on the bottom of her shoe, and Nina was like, that went well. Or she said it didn't go terrible. So she even knew it didn't go well. And she was like, now is my moment. And Maxie is like, what? What about anything of that seemed like the time? I felt, so I found that to be really like manipulative and gaslighty, and I really don't like it when people do that kind of disingenuous shit, because obviously she was also doing it to get something from Carly. So I don't understand in what world, like if you relate to that behavior, you need to do some self-reflection, because that's not relatable. If you think that's rootable, I don't want, I just seek help.
It's also this thing, I really don't understand what's happening. I really don't. I think Twitter is like the only place where people say anything nice about Nina. I'm in a GH Facebook group that I really like. I know, who knew I could ever like GH Facebook, but I do really like this group.
What's the name of the group?
What's
the name of the group?
I'll invite you to it. You have to like fill out a little thing. It's like less trolls than normal.
Okay.
And then like on Instagram too, like anytime they post something about Nina, people are just like, no. And some of that is like the situation, but some of it is like the character. And I continue to be like a little confused by some of the choices that Cynthia Watros makes. Like I don't understand what's happening. This storyline is bad. I cannot imagine, like when my faves do stupid shit, I cannot excuse them. I cannot like make excuses for them. And I feel like all Nina fans can do is like make excuses for really ridiculous behavior or project like future behavior onto like other people. So like right now, Carly has come out of this divorce looking amazing, come out looking mature, come out looking, like the victim, but also like standing strong, like all of that. And so like, I'll see this like stuff about her if I ever go into the tag, and it's like, well, she's going to do blah, blah, blah. We're projecting, like we're angry at a character based on like what we think they're gonna do. And that's like really all I've seen from like people who defend Nina. And I'm like, defend Nina without talking about Carly challenge. And you would fail that challenge because Nina's not like she's an indefensible character right now. And I don't know if they're gonna build something out for her, but she is wild. Sorry, go ahead. More hot takes. I just can't. I'm so confused.
Different topic. let's talk about the men's clothes this week. I know we usually talk about like Maxi's clothes or someone else's clothes. I've started tracking the men's clothes. I'm very happy to report that Curtis's suit did fit. I'm very happy that they gave him a suit for court that actually fits. So good job. I'm sad to report Marcus's shirt does not fit. It was too tight. It was way too tight. It looked like he was wearing padding underneath the shirt. It looked ridiculous. Now, I'm not saying that it was, but I'm just saying that's what it looked like. One thing I'm not going to like talk shit on Marcus is that we know Marcus likes to work out and that's, you know, his thing. So probably wasn't padded, but looked ridiculous. Chad, you need to wear an undershirt under your shirts. He was in his he was sitting at the Metro Court, like talking to Willow, and like he kept adjusting his shirt. I don't know if something was going wrong with it, but like it kept gapping. And I was like, I can see your belly, honey. We need to wear an undershirt. I don't know if they didn't teach you that the Corinthos finishing school, but you look ridiculous. Those were my main comments on the men's clothing. Oh, also, why did Spencer have to come down with his shirt off? In his grandmother's house. In your grandmother's house, you put your shirt on before you come down the stairs. I'm sure G. Francis was like, ugh. They did this with Tyler all the time too. But I was like, okay, sure. And so that's my report on the men's clothing. Some of it fit, most of it didn't, and not everyone was wearing enough clothes. So and on the Laura and Spencer note, I love that scene. It was the only one of Spencer's scenes that I loved this week, and like the last moment of him being like remotely redeeming. But I liked seeing that contrast between the way that he is with Laura and then the way that he was with Victor. Like with Laura, he's like, I messed up. And have you ever done anything like this before? And Laura was like, please, have I? I was married to Luke Spencer, honey. We can get through this. And how he was with Victor.
And Scott Baldwin.
Oh God. First married to Scott Baldwin. Oof. Anyway.
From that scene, I just want to talk about the Madeleines. So that's my favorite cookie. I love that he had a big old plate of Madeleines for breakfast, and that's it. I was gonna come today with some Madeleines and sipping on it with my tea, but I didn't go to the store and get any. But love that, Spencer, that you like Madeleines. I hope Nicholas Chavez likes Madeleines. I'm not the one that sends gifts to people, but maybe I will one day send you some Madeleines. I don't know. My other thing was, it seems like the writers just try to come up with different ways to mention Jason and just like stop. Like even when they were talking about Trina's arrest, Sam was like, I wish Jason was here. I'm like, why? What does he have to do with this? I mean, they're still mourning, I guess, but it's not, no, I didn't like it.
The show is so much better without Jason. Ugh, so much better.
It is.
To the point about the Madeleines, though, my favorite part was when Victor came and bit one and they just like threw it on Laura's table.
The clunk. It was the loudest clunk. Like I cracked up even the first time I saw it. I was like, damn, Victor, you just throwing cookies around Laura's house.
Victor,
I love. Always gotta love Victor Laura showdown, and I love the way that Spencer was like, oh, I think I'm just gonna go back to bed, like trying to like edge himself out of the room. I felt that deeply. He was like, oh, this again.
Like
I'm gonna go cry into this art book. When you're done.
My dude, you just woke up and you just put on a shirt. Calm down. I have no Sante. What a travesty. I was really disappointed that we had no Sante this week. I love seeing Sam and Dante. I've said it before. I love seeing them sprinkled throughout other storylines. And I don't actually even need them to have like a huge storyline, but they are one of the few bright spots on the canvas. We need to have like very cute little scenes with them every week. I would like to request. There's no reason why not. Just do it. I was sad that we didn't have them.
Bring out the shower set.
Mm-hmm.
Dante's only home set. Bring out the shower set.
Bring out the shower set, because apparently we have a spoiler about Chase getting out of a shower. So it should be Sante getting out of the shower or being in the shower or next to the shower, whatever.
It can be the new axe throwing set, you know, like everyone just has a shower scene the week that they use the shower set.
Boom. Trina blacked out from one drink and no one has asked who made it. Literally no one has been like, who made the one drink that Trina blacked out from? Okay. A lot of Trina stuff. I'm annoyed by the fake redemption arc for Harmony. I'm like actually very annoyed by it. I was like talking about how it like reminded me from like how Days of Our Lives tried to do like a fake redemption arc for this like man who was like an abuser named TR. And it was that they use all the right language. You know what I'm saying? Like all the right things that like you would go through to make amends, to like have people turn out to be like awful people. And you didn't have to do that. It actually like undermines like actual redemption. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
And with Tiara, at least within like we knew within a couple weeks it was bullshit.
Right.
With Harmony, we've been with her for like a year, over a year with this shit.
Mm-hmm. But shout out to my girl Samantha for the discernment, because Samantha ain't ever fucked with it. She was like, listen, grifter and con recognize grifter and con. So I'm gonna be cool because my mama fuck with you, but I'm gonna keep my eye on you. And I appreciate that about Sam. Sunny could get Esme at Windermere. Yes. Like that. First of all, Sunny already done rolled up to Windermere with his goons, hemmed up Nicholas for the wrong thing, and then left and thanked Trina for it. So she would actually be safer at Laura's house because Sunny wouldn't send his goons to Laura's house because he respects Laura too much. He thinks Marcellus is a little bitch, and he would go get Esme if he wanted her.
And Ava would be the one making the call to be like, guess
what? Yes.
Because they have a temporary alliance right now.
Yes.
Love a temporary
alliance. The kudos to Nina for the not drinking Sunny. Stop it. Stop it. It's dumb. It's really like this idea that like she made Sunny a better person and he did it for her. He ain't got kids. He should have been doing this for, like, I'm not here for it. I hate it. Let's stop. I really enjoyed Taggart going like Big Papa for Trina. Like don't mess with his daughter. And he should have been at the arraignment and at least mentioned why he wasn't there. I know that there's like speculation that he's getting Gia or whoever else. And if not, if like it was something with the actor, like which could be true, like they should have just temp actored it or said something. There's no reason that like Taggart wasn't even mentioned. Either he wasn't there or his absence wasn't explained at the arraignment.
When I did my rewatch, he did storm out and be like, I'm gonna go start investigating. But right. I wish that they had been like, Taggart is out of, he had to go out of town or like whatever it was that he was doing. Because I had to go back and be like, wait, where was Taggart? Because he wasn't there when Trina got arrested, but he was in the police station right before. And so he like stormed out of the interrogation room or whatever. Yeah. I think because they're playing up the Curtis being.
I'm sure.
Bad.
What I love is there was like a thing in Soap Opera Digest where it was like, Portia looked funny about whatever. And I was like, no, she didn't.
Yeah.
Brooke is like, I'm not doing this until you make me do this. Like, she never looked funny with it. So anyway.
There wasn't even actually a reaction shot after he said that.
No.
Because I went back and I was like, I'm gonna watch for that. And I was like, what are you talking about? I think it was, yeah. I don't
Maybe they got a different cut than we did, but no, it didn't happen. Sasha and Brando would be super cute minus the drugs. And I wish we had time to really ground them as a couple. They have good chem, but they are so tragic, and I don't want to see it. I wouldn't be sad if they left tomorrow, and I wish they would. It's devastating. I don't want to see it. It's and I don't care enough about them to be sad for them. You know what I'm saying? Like, no.
When I'm sad for them, it's because like Sophia pulls it out of me against my will.
And it's like, I'm sad for them, but I don't have enough emotional attachment for them to want to be sad for them. I don't want an extra sad story for people I don't really know.
No.
I love Dante staying on BLQ's neck. I don't care how much Chase tries to check him. Stay on her neck, Dante. Because you're right. She was selfish. And it's always been hard, and I do not care that she misses Bailey. I don't. Like, I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't care. Oh. Why aren't Shalyn together? Their angst is not interesting. Let's move them to the next phase of their relationship. Let them be boring like Milo or whatever it is, because whatever like buildup they're trying to do for them, it's not working. So just stop building and let it be.
Get to the point. I don't understand. They haven't given a good reason for why they're acting like they're just friends.
No.
Because they're not. So be together or don't.
Yeah. And then, damn, me, Marshall, and Scott all feel the same way about Sunny. I hate that journey for me. I don't like having this in common with them.
Something about being a Sunny hater that is hard to navigate over the years is that there are also some really awful people who hate Sunny. And it can create some like weird conflicts of interests and temporary alliances that you may not want to have necessarily. It's awful.
I'm devastated about it. And the last thing I'll say about Nina, how dare her try to take Scott Baldwin away from Trina with her money when Trina needs him for you to be fighting for grandparents' visitation rights. I told you, anyone who rises up against Trina Robinson, I'm not fucking with them. I already wasn't fucking with Nina, and I consider this a rise up against Trina Robinson. Hot take.
Yep.
Tanya, do you have any hot takes before we move to?
I gave my lecture hot take. I don't have anything else. I think you guys covered it all. Sandra, do you got any predictions?
Oh, I don't know. I have a previews. I don't know.
I love that you looked into the distance like that's so Raven. So I felt like you was really about to give us some predictions.
You're like,
Lord, I just, I love a prediction, but it's been so hard lately because nothing makes sense. It feels like very futile in a lot of ways to try and guess what's happening with the show, because like so much of it feels very nonsensical, and so much of being able to predict what may happen or even speculate. I think speculate's probably a better word than predict, is like when you know the characters well enough to know how they're going to behave in any given situation. And what we've been seeing, but what we saw especially from our faves this week is like, who knows? But we can talk a little bit about the previews and what to expect for next week. So speaking of Sasha and Brando, we have the Deception team celebrating the IPO at the Savoy. And Sasha is going to, I think they're going to pressure Sasha into giving a speech, but they don't know that she's high. And the spoiler is something is off with Sasha. There's also, I guess, going to be singing. I've been calling it the new nurses ball because apparently we're not doing a nurses ball this year, but Lucy had like talked about it, like, we'll just invite the people that we usually, you know, invite to sing at the nurses ball. So I have a feeling Chase is going to turn it around. He will also be having a dinner with Finn, Violet, and his dad. So we'll be seeing Finn and Chase's dad again, Gregory. And I am assuming that they're going to convince him to sing at the thing.
Chase's dad?
Yeah. Like, that's going to be that's like the thing that happens immediately before the IPO celebration. So I think it will probably be like part like, son, you just need to share your gifts with the world and love this woman, this scheming woman. I don't know. But I have a feeling that they're also going to talk about Liz and that situation. She's also present in the spoilers. She'll be talking to Laura early on in the week. Jake and Aiden we'll have a scene with them theorizing about what's been going on. And so we'll have a little bit of the Liz storyline. We'll also have, there is Sante in the spoilers for next week. So they'll be talking to Anna to get her up to speed on what they've uncovered. Victor will be sending an urgent text to get it done. I'm assuming that has to do with the vet capers and not with, you know, sweeping Esme off to Pregnancy Island. But I would be okay with that too. As long as she got quality healthcare while she was there, right? Autonomy? Is this autonomy? Let's not think too deeply about it. And then Anna and Felicia will be going undercover again this week. So I'm looking forward to the gifts. We also have a bit of the Wiley's adults storyline. So we have Sunny and Nina in scenes together, Harmony approaching Carly at her office. Milo scenes, Scott approaching Sunny. And then Harmony's given no choice but to take a meeting on the pier. And I would guess it might be from Neil's brother, since at the end of last week, he found a file on her that I'm assuming belonged to Neil. So maybe we'll finally get some insight into like what's going on there. Maybe
a murder meeting on the pier.
I love it. Maybe she'll kill him too.
I would love that, to be honest.
I would love it because he sucks.
Yeah, he was like crazy.
People were already like trying to say like put him and Alexis together, and I was like, the extortionist? Okay. It's the same people who are against Harmony and Alexis from the beginning. So I'm like, I understand what your issues are with Harmony. Like, I get it. As much as like I joke about like he had it coming, like I know, I get it. But now you want Alexis with the extortionist. Just look at yourselves in the mirror, okay? Like, think about why it is that Harmony is so offensive to y'all, but this random white man that we've only ever seen be awful to Alexis is okay. Just think about that. It might have something to do with a little homophobia, but I guess that's not a prediction. That's just a fact. Where was I? We're also going to see Brad with Terry tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. I've been wanting a scene between the two of them for a while. At the parallel with a scene with Britt and Selena Wu. And then we'll also see Selena once again having another conversation with Curtis, which I very much look forward to. And then we have a couple of random spoilers that are very mysterious. In an exotic tropical locale, two unexpected people make contact. I just want it to be Valentine related so bad because he's still not at the so I want it to be like, oh, Valentine was a garbage infection camp is actually in a tropical locale, is how I have it in my head. And then that Anna and Felicia are undercover somewhere tropical, and they run into Valentine. And then Valentine and Anna kiss. Why? Because they should. They haven't kissed all year, so we're ready. And then a sexy moment gets interrupted. I don't know. What concerns me most is, what does GH think is sexy at this point? So I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much.
It's gonna be Austin and Maxie.
No. Well,
that needs to be interrupted. Yeah. Yes, interrupt that.
We're on the same page.
Right.
And then finally, for the teen scene, Ava is livid about what she finds at Windermere on Monday. We already know what that is. And we also saw Spencer's again telling Esme, what, you need to pee on this goddamn stick. So we saw that in the previews on Friday. There is a spoiler that Esme and Spencer get an answer. So assuming that we're going to find out one way or the other if Esme is pregnant, or at least if we are to believe that she is pregnant moving forward. Laura is actually going to come to talk to Esme about the video and her role in it. And it's after she talks to Liz. So I'm wondering if that's also going to be part of their discussion as well, like talking about Cameron and Spencer and Esme. And then, so as Laura addresses Esme about the video, Nick is surprised to see who arrives. And then finally on Friday, oh, I'm sorry, Tanya, you're going to hate this. Trina is going to run into Marshall and they're going to have a conversation.
At Granddaddy.
At Granddaddy. Which, you know, but not if you're talking to Brooke. Brooke's like, that's speculation. It has not been confirmed. Brooke says, I don't know what you're talking about. So yeah, that's like the spoiler breakdown of the week. It looks like gonna be like still quite a bit of the teen and like sex tape storyline, but not as heavily emphasized as this past week. Quite a bit of the Wiley's adults storyline, and then a little bit of Liz, which we haven't seen in a while, and then the Deception IPO. So this feels like more of like a filler catch-up week in a way. I don't know how much will like move.
What sounds like.
Damn, Harmony.
Bored.
Don't tell Laura.
Laura Wright will literally never live that down, because anytime I fast forward anything, I'm like, I'm sorry, Laura. Just off.
You know, it's better that be the thing that you can't live down than Nancy Lee Grahn and all the Viola Davis gifts in her mentions. I'm just saying.
I need to cop one of those.
Nancy can't say too much of anything out of pocket without people being like, remember that's like people like screenshot Viola Davis like inches, like
the mentions and the quote tweets. I would just go back and check them every once in a while just to see, and it was like 80% of the comments were like, here she goes again. She just can't shut up about it. She just can't stay out of Black folks' business. And I was like, it's true. That was also my comment. Oh, Nancy.
Well,
any hopes, wishes, speculations for the coming week or in general about the future of the storylines on this hospital show?
I have a list of people I want Ryan to kill.
Please share.
Well,
Yes.
obviously, when whatever the character is that Mo's son plays, and I want that to be devastatingly bloody.
Yes. Adam.
Schmaltz.
Yeah, that shithead reporter. Mm-hmm.
Neil's brother.
Neil's brother. Yes. Mm-hmm.
I dare not speak anyone else. I have a bigger list, but I'll hold it close. I'll hold it close.
I mean, Markelists.
Always. Ugh.
Always. I'm never gonna stop speaking that into the universe.
When is his contract up?
If it's a 3-year contract, probably sometime in the fall. Because he came back on Halloween. His first episode aired like around Halloween in 2019.
Manifesting.
I still, oh, go ahead.
Oh,
I still want both Finn and Liz to have DID and for their alters to fall in love with each other.
Absolutely. Finn's alter Caleb and Liz's alter Lizzie.
Lizzie and Caleb. Mm-hmm. That's what I want.
Clizzy.
Maybe they would finally have chemistry. And even if they did it, I'd still watch it because it's so ridiculous. Yeah.
I would love it.
I would love for Esme to not be pregnant because as much as I want Spencer to suffer, I don't also want to suffer along with him. I want to enjoy his suffering, and I can't enjoy this kind of suffering even for him at this point.
As problematic as it is, if that happens, I ship Esme and Stairs.
You and many others.
I don't want it. I don't want to see it. In the words of Tanya, I don't want to see it. Well, that's really it. That's all we got. I don't have anything pithy to close us out with. I guess
may our faves thrive, and may our faves that are in the doghouse suffer an appropriate amount so that they can welcome home again.
Right.
That's right.
And so that's the blessing I'm offering for the week.
May Stephen A. Smith give us more gifts. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.